Welcome to Motherhood. I'm Dr. Christina Hibbert, and as you know, I'm here to help you overcome, become, and flourish through this creative experience we call motherhood. Now, today we're actually going to be talking about creativity and motherhood and how you can use your creativity to uplift and inspire not only others, but yourself as well. And if you're sitting there thinking, but I'm not a creative person, I don't create, I don't draw, I don't sing, I don't dance. I want you to just hang with us because the truth is we are all creators. And just by the fact that we're mothers, we've already created something called life and children and a family and a home. And we're going to, hopefully by the end of the show, you'll feel why we are all endowed with this ability to create and to use creativity in our lives to bring so much good to ourselves and to others. And I've been dying to do this show for a long time. I really knew that I wanted to talk about creativity and motherhood because for me, it's been such an important part of my mothering experience. And it's something that I know that many of my friends and many of my clients struggle with. How do I keep the creativity alive while I'm still trying to raise a family? But I couldn't find the right guest for a long time until I finally found the right guest. And I'm going to introduce her in just a few minutes, so hang tight. But I'm excited for today's show, so I hope you'll stick around. And I want to thank you for joining us as you come each week. I love getting to know more about everybody out there and to get to, as I say, grow together instead of just going through this experience of motherhood. It's a lot more fun to grow through it than just go through it. And that's what we do here each week on Motherhood. And so I hope that you will continue to tune in each week. I'm happy to say that these episodes are now on iTunes, so you can find them easily there. They're free to download as a podcast. You can listen on the go. I like personally to listen when I'm driving or traveling. It's a great way to kind of keep in tune and be entertained. And you can also subscribe on iTunes, and that way you can get the podcasts without doing anything. So that's kind of nice. Also, I hope you'll join us on my website at drchristinahibbert.com, where I almost always have blog posts related to the episodes and, of course, other resources and links for you to our guests. And also on social media, we're all over the place on social media. Facebook at Dr. Christina Hibbert, Instagram at Dr. Christy with an I, CHRISTI_Hibbert. And Pinterest, you can find me there, Dr. Christina Hibbert, and Twitter at Dr. C. Hibbert. Anyway, we're all over the place. So connect with us on social media and join our new Facebook group called Growing Through Motherhood. It's just another way to get to know other listeners and to get to connect up and know more about each other. And also a way for me to get to know what you want to hear about on the show. And you can always email me as well. I love to hear from you. Feedback, ideas, suggestions at Christina@drchristinahibbert.com. All right. So also I want to mention that we are going to be doing our Dr. Christie's Simple Solutions segment again today. This is only our second time, but I'm loving this segment that we get to do each week because I get to share with you some of my favorite ideas, products, programs, things, whatever, that I think makes life more meaningful, richer, and simpler. And hey, as a mom, I think we're all about the simplest way to do things, right? So we're looking for the way to do things the best we can in the simplest way. And today's Simple Solutions segment is a fabulous one that's going to be related to our topic. And it's a great way to bring some more creativity to your memories, your photos, and stick around because at the end of the show, we're going to be talking about that. Now, before we introduce our guest, I just wanted to share a few of my thoughts on creativity because, as I said, creativity has been an important part of my life and something that I have always felt drawn to. But, it kind of changes over the years. And for me, I've been through my phases of scrapbooking and putting together photo albums and things like that. And then into writing and into, to me, speaking is creativity. I think that what we do with our families is creativity. How we teach our children can be part of creativity. There are so many ways to be creative. And also, I've been thinking a lot about creation and how we as moms, we create, like I said, not only life, but we create our homes and we create our families. And moms really are kind of the central figure. As they say, if mom ain't happy, nobody's happy. And it's so true that if we aren't living the life that we want to be living, if we haven't created the life that we want, then, it's going to be hard for our family to live the life that they should be living. So I want to also inspire us today to think about all these things we talk about in the bigger context too of how do we create the life we want through using our creativity in different ways. And I was thinking about this because I think this is going to be the topic of one of my next books is how to create the life you desire. And I was looking through some comments and the psychologist Carl Jung once said something very interesting. He was talking about problems and how, and I've always said that we don't really have problems in life. We have situations, and it's up to us to decide whether it's a problem or not, really. I mean, if you think about it. And so Carl Jung was kind of commenting on this same thing. And what he said, all the greatest and most important problems of life are fundamentally insoluble. Okay, now that sounds kind of miserable that none of our problems can be solved, right? But hold on. He says they can never be solved, but only outgrown. And you all out there know that I am a big fan of choosing to grow. That's what this show's all about. That's what my book, This Is How We Grow, is all about. He goes on to say, this outgrowth proved on further investigation to require a new level of consciousness, something higher and wider that appeared on the patient's horizon. And through this broadening of his or her outlook, the insoluble problem lost its urgency. It was not solved logically in its own terms, but faded when confronted with a new and stronger life urge. Okay, now I love this because as another author, his last name is Fritz, says, no matter what your problems are, for the most part, solving them won't solve them. You will always have a new problem if you do not know how to create what you want. And creating is no problem. And to me, these two go together. That is this new and stronger life urge. That is this new level of consciousness. It's creativity. We have to get out of our box and be creative. And when we create, we bring new solutions into our life. We bring new energy into our life. And we, as we're going to talk about with our guest, we uplift and inspire ourselves and others. So let me get right to it and introduce our guest. I want to welcome to the show Rhonna Farrer. Rhonna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful to have you here. As I said, I've been dying to do this episode. And, for you listeners out there, I came across Rhonna actually through Instagram and just started following you on Instagram. And then I got your apps. We're going to talk about those in the Simple Solutions segment because I love them. And I just started thinking, well, might as well invite her on the show because you're definitely a creative person.
Well, thanks.
I think you know a lot about this topic. So let me tell everybody about you a little bit, and then we'll get right into it.
Okay.
So just a little bit about Rhonna. And just so you know, her name is spelled Rhonna. That's her first name. And last name, Ferrer, Farrer, because you can find her on her website, which is the same spelling, RhonnaDesigns.com. And I'll also share her blog in just a minute. But Rhonna Farrer strives to uplift and inspire other people through her graphic art and her award-winning mobile device app that we're going to share at the end of the show, and through social media. She enjoys creating on a daily basis, and she's inspired by her family and her faith. Rhonna's a mom of 3 kids, 19, 17, and 15, right?
Yes.
Okay, so she's in the thick of the teenage years,
Yes.
just like I am, which we were talking about. That requires a lot of creativity in its own right.
Yes,
right?
it does.
That's right. Every phase of mother requires a new level of creativity. But so the way Rhonna got started was almost 20 years ago. She started her creative journey, and she wasn't expecting it to lead where it did, but it opened up these opportunities she would have never dreamed possible. Initially, she started doing freelance work that helped her connect with companies that manufactured things like greeting cards and gift bags and stationery and things like that. But later, in about 2003, she began designing her own lines of scrapbook products. And during that time, she got the opportunity as well to author and contribute to many idea books and also to work as a creative team member with different companies and magazines. And she also was able to teach creative classes online, in person, nationally, internationally. But more recently, Rhonna has focused her digital art to create this wonderful little mobile device app, and it's called Rhonna Designs. And she also released another app called RD Magic, and I have both of them. And again, we're going to talk more about those at the end of the show, but they're wonderful apps that make life simpler, simple solution there. And they help to add these flourishes and design to your photos and different things. But she also loves uplifting and inspiring others through her work with her family and through serving in her church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And she really strives to empower people with ideas and inspiration that she says will, quote unquote, flood the earth with goodness. I love that. So
we all need it.
We all need some goodness. Flood that earth with goodness. Absolutely. So welcome again, Rhonna. And it's great to have you. I love this idea of not just talking about creativity, but you inspired me to be able to talk about, we can talk about creativity and how that correlates with this idea of uplift and inspire, which I will say is her hashtag uplift and inspire, one word. You can go search that as well. And I forgot to mention, you can find Rhonna on Facebook at Rhonna Designs, on Twitter, which is at Rhonna Farrer, and Instagram at Rhonna Farrer. Again, RhonnaFarrer. Okay.
Exactly.
Right? And Your blog. Her blog is Rhonna Designs at blogspot.com.
Yes.
All right. I want to make sure everybody knows how to find you in case I forget later. All right. So let's start by talking about I thought we could start by talking about your definition of creativity. What does creativity mean to you?
Creativity is a scary word for some people. And when they hear it, sometimes they'll just automatically shut down and say, I'm not creative. But creativity to me is just making something out of nothing. And that can be a sandwich. That can be a book. That can be a piece of art, a photo, whatever it is. It's just making something out of nothing. It could be even a laugh. I mean, we can create laughs in other people. And so when people start shutting down about creativity, I just want to say, no, don't do that. There's so much more to creativity. So basically just being yourself is being creative.
I love that. I haven't thought about that, but you're right. That's probably, if I looked it up in the dictionary, that might even be the definition of creativity. I don't know, but making something out of nothing. But you're right. I love how you broaden that too and say that being ourself is being creative. Because you're right. Because there's only one you and
exactly.
Only one me. And if we are being who we really are meant to be, that is creativity too.
Right.
Absolutely. So, and I like that you brought up how a lot of people, again, don't feel creative. We're going to kind of talk more about why that is and how to overcome that if you're out there listening thinking, well, I'm not creative, but I don't fit into this. But that's one way to look at it is what Rhonna just shared. And, I was thinking about creativity too. And like I said, to me, creativity, I think to piggyback on what you said, it's sort of bringing something that didn't exist before into existence. And to me, it kind of it brings with it this kind of energy that is really good.
Yeah, it is. It's inspiring. It really is.
Right. It's inspiring. And it's not just, there's all these different ways to be creative. Let's talk about some of them, So tell us a little bit about your creative journey, like what you do to be creative. Obviously, you're an artist and, explain a little bit about what you actually do in your creative journey.
Creativity is basically, if I don't have any creativity, if I wake up feeling uncreative, then my whole job that day is basically down the tube. So I can't afford to not be creative. So I have figured out different ways for me personally to get that creative kick. And before I say all of this, I have to say that what works for me may not work for you or somebody listening. Right. But I think the whole key is to figure out what inspires and what boosts that creativity for you, So for me, because I'm a visual artist, I need to see things. I need to train my eye to see things differently. And so for me, that's a creative solution. Like you were talking about solutions, not a problem, but solutions.
Right.
And for me, I've been creating really since I was born. My dad jokes about it because not in fifth grade, when I was 5, in kindergarten, I painted a little rock for him that he put, the typical painted rock that the parents get, and they put it on their desk, and he's had it for years. And now that I have become an artist and everything, he always jokes and said, I knew it from that rock. I knew that you had something in you. And so really my creative journey has been since, forever. But the thing is that I've evolved and I've learned what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And so that creativity and the inspiration and everything really just kind of flows through experimentation and practicing. Mm-hmm. And I have to practice every single day.
That's okay. I'm so glad you brought up practicing, because I wasn't thinking about that. But you're right. You can practice being creative and in different ways. Like you said, you're a visual artist, and I am not good at art. I'm just, I can't draw. I can maybe create things. I might have a good eye for something, but
you're creative in other ways.
Yes, exactly. I have my other ways, like music. I write music and writing and speaking, like I said, and whatever. Yeah. So we all have our thing. And then, we've got our kids that might be creative in sports or an activity or whatever it may be. And we might focus on practicing those specific activities. Like if you want to be an artist, you got to practice drawing your art or painting or whatever you're going to do. But I like what you're saying, that we can practice creativity just in general. Exactly.
And everybody needs creativity, no matter what part of what stage of life you're in or what your field is or whatever. Creativity comes into every bit of our lives. It's amazing. I really started learning more about creativity just through the 20 years that you mentioned when I got my degree. And really it comes handy in every part of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you, because even as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, yeah, I saw a couple yesterday in therapy, and they have some big quote unquote problems, and I needed to get some very creative solutions. And
exactly,
it's problem solving requires creativity with our families or with our work. And and also, as I was saying before, and you were talking about too, is being who we are requires that creativity and practice as well, to overcome our challenges and strengthen our weaknesses and figure out who am I really and what am I really here to do. And to me, I was thinking too that creativity totally blends with sort of what's your life mission and your life's purpose and that sort of topic. And, that's something for you listeners out there. We've been working on that all this past year of season 2 of my This Is How We Grow personal growth group, which if you don't know about it, it's a free online personal growth group where you can get a monthly lesson and do work along with us. And we've been working on how do you figure that out? How do you figure out your life's calling and mission and purpose? And I'm thinking, and you tell me, Rhonna, what you think, but I'm thinking from what you said that, like you say, it kind of evolved for you. And I liked how your intro kind of says, you weren't expecting this. It's just kind of how it came. But
right.
Uh-huh. So how did you kind of follow that path of, okay, this is what I'm meant to do? And, I'm sure there are listeners out there going, well, I don't even know what my life's mission or purpose is. And how am I supposed to use creativity to find it? So any thoughts on that?
It is part of one of my catchphrases that I always love to say, and it was my mantra for a while, was follow your heart. Mm-hmm. Because I remember in high school, I loved art, and I thought for sure I was going to be an artist. I loved it, and my mom told me that I was really good, and I was always doodling, and I just thought, this is what I want to do. And when I was a senior in high school, my art teacher looked at my project and said, you'll never make it as an artist. Oh. And that just crushed me. And I thought, oh my goodness, he's the art teacher. He must know that's not what I'm supposed to do. So I put it aside for a while, and I went a couple of years and didn't do anything. And inside, I just kept feeling like I want to do it. And so pretty soon that little voice inside of me said, ignore that art teacher. He doesn't know what's up. And so my heart was telling me, you want to create. You want to do, you want to doodle, you want to paint, you want to do these things. So I decided to get my degree in art. And I thought, I am going to be an art teacher. And I'm going to be the kind of art teacher that, number one, never says that to a student.
Yes.
I'm not going to crush their soul, you know.
I know.
But also to help them, because my art, I realized that my style of art was different from my art teacher's style.
Right.
And so he's looking at that thinking, oh, you'll never be. What he really meant, he didn't mean to crush my soul, you know, but he really meant you won't ever be an artist like me. And that's fine. I don't need to be an artist like him, you know, and not, thank goodness, not everybody is not the same. We need that uniqueness. We need that diversity. And so when your heart is telling you to go for something or something that you love, like you were saying, you love music and you love speaking. Some people may not like that, but if you are feeling that in your heart, go for it. Start to explore and experiment and make goals and see what works. And then it really just does evolve. When you follow your heart and you keep, sometimes you just have to ignore those outside voices because they can be really harsh sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Your heart will never lead you astray. And that's one thing that I've learned is when I really am still and focus and listen, I can figure out what my mission is. I can figure out what I need to be doing that only I can do. And so that's kind of, I think that's part of evolving is following your heart and not listening to outside voices.
Yes, that is so important. I'm so glad you shared that because I know everybody listening is now thinking of the time that so-and-so told them they couldn't do X, Y, or Z, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking of, when I was trying to publish my first book and I was so nervous because I thought, who am I to write a book? And who am I to write a memoir? Like, who cares about my life? I'm not famous. Nobody cares about me, and I submitted it to some publishers and you might get some positive feedback, but still if they say no, they say no. And it makes you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this, or I'm not popular enough, or people don't like me enough, or whatever, or I'm not skilled enough, or I'm not talented enough, like you're saying. And I think we all need to develop a little thicker skin when it comes to creativity because you're right. It's our heart. It's your art. It's not your teacher's art.
Yes.
It's your song, not your teacher's song. It's your home, not your friend's home. It's your child, not somebody else's child, right?
Right. Exactly.
So this kind of ties in really brilliantly with our next segment here as we talk about some of the struggles that mothers particularly face when it comes to creativity. And I think one of them is what you just mentioned, hearing other people say you can't do it. Now that's a biggie when it comes to actually pursuing creativity, whether it be in a paid capacity through a career or work, or whether it just be as a hobby, unpaid creativity, which many of us do all the time anyway. Right. I think that can be a biggie that stops a lot of moms in their tracks. What do you have to say about that?
Well, number one, if someone says you can't, I say don't listen to it because you can. And I really believe that it's all about your perspective. When I was young, when I was a young mom and I had my children ages, my first two are 16 months apart. So I felt like I had twins for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And I had my degree and I chose to stay home and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And a lot of people were saying, oh, you can't do both things. And I thought, oh, yes, I can. I got to figure this out. And so I figured out how to do it. But the way that I figured that out is by changing my perspective and looking at things differently and saying, okay, today my day consists of dirty diapers and changing, laundry and cooking and all those things that sometimes can feel a little bit, if we choose, we can look at it like it's not very fun or it's not very creative. And so I decided, you know what? This is creative. I'm going to live a creative life. That's the kind of life that I want to live. So I would start looking at things very differently. When my daughters would play dress up, I started thinking, oh, let's put these colors together. Or let's do, like I said, I'm a visual person,
Yes.
And so I started looking at things differently. I started looking at, okay, how can I set the table tonight for dinner? Or how can I make this sandwich? It started changing the way that I looked. And I started realizing I can be creative in anything that I choose. And nobody can tell me that I can't. That's one thing. When that teacher told me you can't, you won't ever be an artist, I thought, oh, yes, I can. So it was really good because I needed that. Some people might not, that might not be the way they tick. But for me, I thought, if this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to choose to look at things differently. So I think the first thing is change the way you see things. If something feels really drab, or if, another day of changing diapers, okay, think of it as a game. Think of it as, make it fun with your child, or just start looking at things differently, creatively, and pretty soon you feel different. And I learned that. I didn't start feeling like that, another day of just talking to my toddlers,
Right.
Instead, I would record them and we'd have conversations. And now I cherish them 10, 15 years later, So really just changing your perspective that's the first step to creativity, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this. I love how you said that you changed your perspective to be, I want to live a creative life. It's not just you and your business and following your dreams of being an artist or whatever you want to do. It's putting creativity into every part of your day. And I find that, like we kind of talked about before, how I know you agree that creativity brings energy and joy. It's sort of, they go hand in hand, right?
Oh, yes.
And so I find the same goes with, if you're just looking to be a more joyful person and you want to be a joyful person, you look for the joy in the moments. You try to make it a joyful moment when it's not. As we say in our house, when the kids leave, we say, don't have a good day. And they say, make a good day,
Right.
And so, we've got them trained.
Yes, exactly.
And I remember once I put that on Facebook and somebody commented and said, well, I think that's terrible. You're putting this pressure on your kids to go out and they have to make a good day. And I said, no. I'm not putting pressure on them. I'm just trying to remind them that, things are going to happen. It's going to, like you say, you're going to have the muck of life and you don't want to be in it. But you have a choice of how you're going to respond in that moment. And what you're talking about is you were actually using your creativity, like you said, to kind of get out of that box that you were in and do life a different way.
Right. Then I had to figure out how I would be able to start doing my business with children. And so it was during their nap times. It was when they were asleep. And pretty soon I started realizing all of these different things that I was practicing, that I was exploring and experimenting with, really started shedding some wonderful light on my professional side. So it really just kind of it started to be a creative life in every aspect.
Right. I'm guessing that went both ways too, because the more you create, you kind of bring that to your family life as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I really believe, and I'm sure you agree with me, that when we are pursuing creative pursuits in whatever capacity, we are happier, better at being a mom. And I think a lot of people use that as an excuse that I don't have time. I'm too busy. It's just too overwhelming with my kids and my family. I don't have time to scrapbook or to, work in my garden or whatever you love to do to create or decorate my house or whatever it may be. But then when you do those things and you are, like you said, following your heart that's telling you, you're really good at this, you have a skill here, or you really love this, it lights you up.
Uh-huh.
And when we do that, it does light us up. And then our children, our families benefit from that.
Right. And that joy and happiness and light, everybody feeds off of. Mm-hmm. And like you said, if mom is not happy, ain't nobody happy. Yeah, and so as a mom, you really do need to figure out what makes you happy. And I have also learned that there's a fine line. There's a balance. And sometimes I would start pulling all-nighters just because I was so in the moment and I loved it. And I started realizing, whoa, that's not going to work. My body started telling me, you can't do that. Right. And my mind started telling me, you can't do that. So there really is a fine line. I mean, just like with everything in life, when you find something that you love, you really do need to figure out what works and what won't work. And sometimes it's through experimenting again, like I was saying, pulling all-nighters. Yeah, you can't do that when you have little kids.
Right. It'll definitely catch up to you. Yes. And I think we've all been there. You get a little too overzealous in your passion there. And you learn your lesson, and then you have to cut back and try to find that the dreaded word balance. We talked about this on another show recently.
I know. It is a dreaded word, but it is real, isn't it?
Yes. And as I've said before on this show, my idea of balance is it's really about your choices and what you're talking about. It's, if you want to feel balanced in your life, you have to make the choices that lead to that feeling. You don't just go out and say, I need a balanced life, so I'm going to go balance my life. You
Yeah.
It's not a thing that you do. It's a feeling that you get if you're making the choices that help your life feel balanced. And and you're right. We don't want to overdo it. And your body will tell you and you'll know. But at the same time, when you're doing it right, you do feel that more aliveness, energy.
Right.
You feel like you have a little bit more to give.
Yes.
Because you're being true to yourself, like you say, you're following your heart, right?
Yes.
So this kind of crushes all those excuses out there, listeners. If you think you're too busy, you don't have time, you're not creative, well, Rhonna right here is telling you how those are just, can't listen to those things. Those are the naysayers. That's you telling yourself you can't do it, which is just as bad as somebody else telling you you can't do it.
Yes, we can't be that outside voice either that's telling us we can't. We've got to believe in ourselves and say we can, but we have to learn how to. My thing is do one step at a time, and you're not going to jump the staircase. You've got to take one step at a time. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to live that creative life, you're not just going to jump towards it. You've got to build it, and you've got to take one step at a time, and that's a daily thing.
Yeah. And so all of you listening, you can follow Rhonna's advice. This is a really good advice. You can start by saying, if you're thinking I'm not creative, you change that right now and say, I am creative because I'm alive, and everybody who's alive is creative in some way. I'm a mom. I've already created life. Whatever helps you to see that that's not true. And then you can decide, hey, I want to live a creative life. That sounds pretty good, what Rhonna's doing. I like that life. I want to live like that. And like she says, making little steps, little choices each day that help. You can choose in that moment to make it a creative moment to, like you said, engage with your kids in a different way, or make that miserable diaper change something funny or fun or memorable. I don't know. That's a tricky one, but it's possible.
Yeah, that is.
It's possible, right? But that's the brilliant thing, is that we all can do this. It's not just because Rhonna's talented in art that she can do this with her life.
Right. Everybody can. Yes, exactly.
So let's talk about your uplift and inspire and kind of work that into all this, because I mean, it sounds like, and you and I really just met, so I don't know you too well here, but it sounds like this is kind of what drives your life's mission, this idea of uplift and inspire. So tell us kind of where that came from and how you use that to fuel your creativity.
This happened, I would say about 15 years ago now, and I was going through a really hard time. I was kind of going through the mother blues, and I wasn't practicing everything that I preach, and I was just kind of figuring things out. And I was actually, I'm a happy person, I would say, but I was kind of going through a little depression. My mind knew that my life was great and that, there was nothing to worry about, but I was really I think I was just too intense, and I was letting things get me down. Mm-hmm. And one night I had a dream, and the words that just kept coming into my mind were uplift and inspire, uplift and inspire. And it really changed my life. I woke up with my heart just beating. I had all these ideas in my head, and that was right when I shifted into designing scrapbook things. And that dream really got me out of my depression, and those words, uplift and inspire, I decided that needs to be my mantra all the time. Whether I am working with my children, whether I'm teaching or speaking or designing, I need to be thinking what will build, what will uplift, what will inspire me and others. Mm-hmm. And so since then, really, truly, every day I think, okay, what am I going to do? Uplift and inspire. Is there a neighbor that needs some help? Or does my child need some help? Or if I were to create a photo to send to my mom, how would that uplift her? And so really, it has just become something that is constantly on my mind because of that experience that I had many years ago.
Wow, what an experience. I think everybody listening is thinking, I want an experience like that.
I know. And I don't know. I mean, someone said, what did you do? And I said, actually, I prayed that I would be able to get out. And that was kind of my answer to my prayer. But I think everybody can have experiences like that where they get told something in your heart. Like I was saying, in your heart and in your mind, when you feel something, sometimes when it doesn't leave, that means you need to listen. Yeah. And so whatever it is, just listen to what that uplifting and inspiring voice is telling you.
That's really good advice. You're right, because we hear it and sometimes we think, oh no, that's just my brain telling me something.
Right.
But one thing I was thinking in preparing for today's show was just how much, to me, creativity and spirituality go together. And now, we're not here to talk about religion and spirituality per se, but everybody out there listening, you've got to, think most of us agree there's something bigger here than ourselves, whether you call that God or higher power, whatever you call that. And creativity is sort of tapping into that and receiving something. You hear it all the time with all kinds of people who do various forms of creative aspects of their life, that they say it came through me, or it came from somewhere else. I don't even know. Handel's Messiah, one of the most beautiful pieces of music, was completely inspired. He just wrote it and it was completely inspired. And so, this happens all the time. And, what you're saying is we need to listen to those. We need to listen to those whispers, as I like to say, obey the whispers when they come, because they're kind of leading you where you need to go. Right.
Right.
I had it's funny because this radio show, you mentioned prayer, and I'm going to talk about prayer here because I'm a big believer in prayer as well. I was praying to know, because a few months ago, I was trying to figure out how do I get more people to hear my message, and to read my books, or to be able to talk with more people and speak. And I'd been traveling a ton speaking, and I have 6 kids, and, it's, as it's just hard anyway being a mom, but when you're gone all the time, it's just too hard. And I was getting worn out, like you said, that physical worn out too much. So I knew I had to quit. I couldn't be traveling all the time. And so, I was literally praying and begging, what on earth, how can I do this? How can I fulfill what I feel like is my mission and calling in life, and to kind of help people in the way that I'm supposed to help them? How do I do that and reach more people, but not make my family suffer? And literally the next day I got this email asking, hey, we're starting a new parenting show on the radio network, and would you we'd like to interview you. And it ended up, at first I was sort of I don't know if that's the right thing. Maybe this is wrong. Maybe that wasn't the answer I was looking for, but hello, it totally was. And now I get to, in the privacy of my own home. Well, when my kids aren't here, it's private, but, I get to now have that dream and do my creative pursuits in this way. And you're right. We have to listen to that inspiration so that we can go and inspire and uplift others.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So I also appreciated what you said, because what you're talking about here too is creativity isn't just for us.
Right. It's a gift that we need to share with others. Definitely.
Right. And that's the whole point of us bringing something new into the world, creating something, bringing a life into the world, bringing whatever you're bringing into the world through your creative pursuits. It really isn't just about us. And that's what I love. And that's what you're talking about. You wake up each day and you can focus on who needs me today. How can I uplift and inspire? And that in itself is being creative. Right.
And that uplifts and inspires yourself. Whenever I'm looking outward, I immediately feel inspired and more creative and more like I have the energy to be able to do that for other people. So I've learned that when I look inward, that's my creativity. That's the time my creativity goes down.
Right. That's so true. That's true. I guess we need to look inward in the sense of knowing what you want to do, what you're called to do.
Right. That's
not
true.
Focus on ourselves, because creativity really isn't about going and saying, what do I want? And what do I, it is sort of this bigger thing that comes through us, and we create something beautiful and put it out into the world for other people to enjoy. Right. So what are some of your ideas for how our listeners can fill their lives with more things or activities or thoughts that uplift and inspire?
I went going back to my college days when I was in school learning how to become that art teacher that I wanted to become. I had a professor who talked a lot about creativity, and he actually challenged us to write down things that would boost our creativity. And that spurred a lifelong, it's been 20 plus years that I have started what I call my own creativity exercises. Oh. And every day I do these creativity exercises, and I only do one. But what I've learned is that my creativity is like a muscle. And you know how we say when you're consistent in a workout program, you get, your muscles are stronger and everything. Well, that's how I feel about creativity.
Right.
And if I don't exercise my creative muscle every day, then I start getting kind of mushy, kind of soft, and like we would if we're not working out. And so what I've learned is that as I've written down things that inspire me or uplift me or take me out of my comfort zone even, I have honed into about 100 exercises, and I actually have them, I printed them out, and I've got them on little sheets of paper, and I have them in one jar, and then I have another jar that I take it out, and I actually do the exercise, and then I put it into the other jar, and I have rotated this for years.
Wow.
They are tried and true, and I do them all the time, but it's pretty funny because when people hear about it, they're kind of like, oh, but that wouldn't work for me because I'm not a visual artist. Well, I started part of my site. What I did is I did a little video workshop, and I actually, because people were asking me all the time, how do you keep your creativity? Are you ever in a rut? And really, I'm not. I'm never lacking for creative ideas. I probably have too many ideas. That's my problem.
I relate to that.
Right, exactly.
You have to hold yourself
I can't
back.
turn my mind off, right?
Yes.
And so I was inspired to share that with other people. So they have downloaded my program, and they have done it. And I've had people from foodies to party planners to writers to musicians who have done it, and they've said, this really works in my genre or in my field or whatever it is, because they are consistently exercising their creative muscle. And to me, anybody can do it. It's really awesome. So that's what I learned that works for me, and I don't think I'll ever stop them. I think I'll do them till I'm 99 or 100 or
Can you
whatever.
give us an example of like what's one of the exercises?
Okay, well, today I'll read you what was mine today. I have them always on my desk. So today was hang a huge piece of paper on your door. Write, draw, question, answer, think all day. Now, I didn't have a big, huge piece of paper today, so I got a clipboard, and I've got paper on it, and I just started doodling. Now it's not near here. I can't. It's probably behind me. But I just started doodling, and that's something that I start writing words. It just is kind of that creative flow that really anybody can go through. Yeah. And if you're in a creative rut, try that. I promise you'll be out of your creative rut in minutes.
I love that. Okay, so people can access this program of yours? Is it still on your website?
It's on RhonnaDesigns.com, and it's under workshops, and it's just called 100 Creativity Exercises, and that's all it is. It's so fun. It really
I'm totally doing it.
Awesome.
I love it. I love it because I do things like when I took a bunch of writing classes in college, they had us just sit and write for 10 minutes nonstop.
Right.
Or when I'm trying to write a song, I like take an idea and then I go look up a bunch of words that are related to that, or I go in the thesaurus and look up new words or something just to kind of spark ideas.
Exactly.
Or I'll sit at the piano and just kind of like doodle with mess around and just kind of figure out, let's just, mess around with this today.
Yes.
And you're right. I think but I love your ideas because they're new and they get you out of your box. So whereas I might focus on music or writing or something like that, and other people might focus on, their scrapbooking or their whatever they're working on. This is a way to get you to kind of cross those bounds. And like you say, get out of your comfort zone, push yourself a little bit.
Yep.
And that's where
really
creativity
trains
comes
your
from.
brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Trains your brain to think differently and look at things differently and solutions. And I had somebody do it who's an entrepreneur. They say they're not creative at all, yet they were able to find solutions and see things differently that really help them. So that's why I believe creativity is for everybody. Even when you say I'm not creative, I bet you are.
You are. You just have to find the way that you are creative.
Right. Yes.
You might be really creative and, like you say, making people smile or laugh or whatever. That is a skill too. Being funny is creative.
Yes.
There's so many ways. And I love that you have that program. So I want you all to go check that out on Rhonna's website, Rhonna Designs, RHONNA Designs.com. Also, I really appreciated you relating creativity to exercise and muscles. And I think that's something we can all of us listening relate to, that you're right. If it's kind of like in exercise, I just finished my third book on exercise and mental health. And, there's the use it or lose it principle. And, you don't, if you don't work out, you lose your muscle. So the creative muscle, same thing.
Yes, and everybody can do one thing one time a day. If that's not overwhelming, that's not something I can't do it, you can keep up with one little thing a day.
Yes.
That's creatively exercising. How's that?
Yes, absolutely. I love it. And not only that, but it sounds like, you could get your family involved in these, and really make it a fun family experience as well and get your kids started early.
Right,
I mean, how
right.
great would that be?
Exactly. When my kids are having they've got a term paper, or they've got something that they're stressed out about, I will not pull it out and show it, because sometimes they're like, Mom, that's too much. But I'll just say, well, what if you did this? Because I knew that was my creative exercise in the morning. And then if they do it, it just helps their mind kind of switch gears and all of that. And it really does work, even as a student,
I love that. I'm totally using it with my kids too. Okay. I'm glad that I asked about that, because this is good for me. Sorry, listeners, but this is for me right now. Okay. Anyway, one thing I wanted to add that you mentioned, and I wanted to kind of point it out because I think it's an important point, is about self-confidence when it comes to creativity and how much that can hold us back. And many of you listeners know that my last book was on self-esteem and self-worth, and how I believe that, self-esteem is kind of a myth. The pursuit of self-esteem is a myth because it gets us focused on, like you said, it's all about me trying to feel good about myself and think good about myself and be better than somebody else and be the best at this. And it's not good. But the truth is we all have that worth, that if we kind of go inward and tap into it, that we start to feel like, oh yeah, we are of value. We do have creativity. I do have something to contribute. I am a good person. I am, all of these things. And, I want to encourage the listeners out there, anybody who might be struggling with self-worth. And if you feel like that's holding you back from being creative, which it will until you figure that out. And I think that that's sort of a core issue of so many things that block us in our lives, so many of our quote problems. So I want to encourage any of you listening who have some struggles with that to go work on it. I have a lot of free articles on my website. I have my book, Who Am I Without You? And also, you can talk to a therapist, your, faith leader, whomever, about some ways that you can start to really feel your self-worth and grow in self-confidence, because that's going to improve your creativity.
Yes, it totally does.
Totally with me on that. Okay, good.
Yes.
Now, in the last few minutes before we do our simple solutions segment, which is coming up in just a minute, how can you help, or not how can you help, but what are some ideas that you have, Rhonna, for helping our listeners out there to enjoy the creative process? So they're doing their exercises to keep that muscle strong, but what if they start getting into their creativity, whatever it may be, their creative projects, and starting to feel, like you said, maybe they're in a rut, and these exercises can help get out of that. But, sometimes it's hard to just enjoy the process. We get stuck in our head, maybe overanalyze and criticize ourselves. I don't know. What are some of your suggestions that you found helpful for that?
Some of the things, I am not a perfectionist, but my husband is. And it's really funny to see how different. I will just kind of blow through something and just, whatever I get done, I'm happy with. Mm-hmm. And, on the other hand, he's sometimes paralyzed to even do something because he's afraid that it won't be perfect or something like that. And so, how marriage is, you kind of come together in the middle and you kind of learn from each other. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I've learned is that when you look for the good in whatever you've done, whether it's, you blew through it or it wasn't quite perfect or whatever, when you start looking at the actual process, not your destination or not how the project ends if it's not perfect or anything, but really how you're feeling while you're doing it, how you make other people feel while you're doing it, the things that you learn, whether it's, I learned that didn't work, tune into that and say, oh, wow, that was an accomplishment. I really think that optimism in your journey will make it joyful. Ooh, and no matter what the outcome is, because sometimes it's not going to be so great, and if you're a perfectionist, let it go. If you're not a perfectionist, maybe sometimes you'll have to come back and say, oh, I better do that a little bit better next time.
Right.
Whatever it is, whatever your personality is and stuff, try to be optimistic in the journey, and then whatever happens, you'll be happy with at the end, because that you just, again, looking at things differently, looking at, your perspective and saying, that kind of stunk today, but okay, what did I learn? What can I do better next time, or something like that? Mm-hmm.
These are great suggestions, and they're totally in line. I like what you're saying about the process. There's the thing in psychology and therapy, process versus content. And, when you're working with a client and you're talking about the content is what we say and what we're doing and what I'm teaching them to do. And, the idea is when you kind of, every once in a while, you need to step back and look at the process, like what's happening in the room. How are they responding to me? Are they avoiding me? What's going on? And that tells you a lot about what's going on. And so I think that's brilliant how you've just applied it to your creative process, that, you need to not get caught up in the content of what you're producing, saying this was a terrible day because I had to throw out all my work today because it was awful.
Right. Exactly.
But you know what? Those 5 drafts or 10 or 20 or 100 or whatever of what you were working on are going to lead to the one that's awesome,
Exactly.
And it's the process that counts. It's the learning, it's the growing. I mean, that's what we're here to talk about, is how do we grow through life? That's what we're doing. And I love that. You are such a wise woman.
Many years of trial and error, right?
Absolutely. But you're but see, some of the more important points that you brought out, I think, are, to practice creativity, to flex it like a muscle, and to work on it, and to work on it all the time. And you can choose to have a creative life. And if you choose that, you can work toward that. And, that there is no such thing as not being creative, that it just has many different ways. By definition, creativity is creative. Like you can't not be creative if you're alive, so, and just that we can use our work, our play, our hobbies, our whatever we're doing with our creativity to uplift and inspire not only ourselves, but and to help us fulfill our life's mission and purpose, but to help us raise our families, help us serve others, and as you say, what did you say? Be a force for good in the world? Something like that. You said share
Flood
goodness.
Flood the earth with goodness. Yes.
Flood the earth with goodness.
We need that.
We definitely need that. That's why I love talking with people like you and doing shows like this, because it is flooding the earth with goodness.
Yes, I hope so. This. Yes.
And I love that. So you listeners out there, how can you flood the earth with goodness by using your, and even just thinking about that question is engaging your creative process right there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And think about it. We're not going to flood it overnight. We're going to do it one drop at a time. And again, it's that stair step. It's the little bit by little bit, the consistency. And pretty soon it turns into a flood. And pretty soon the people that are in your circle of influence will be uplifted and inspired. And they'll go out and they'll do it. And it just turns into this huge domino effect, this flooding of the earth that I just love to think about. That. So all of you listeners, yes, think about who you can be uplifting and inspiring. Even if you have 3 people in your family, you've got 3 people that you can help.
Oh, that's beautiful. So drop by drop, and as we come together. And the other thing that you're saying here that I want to just bring out is we need each other. In creativity, you cannot be as creative by yourself. Really, you need other people for ideas and inspiration, and you kind of feed off each other. And I know a lot of different types of creative pursuits, artistic pursuits, writing, music, different things. There are groups that you can go and join, like support groups, or people to help critique you, but positive, give you the positive, because I like what you said earlier too, that when we get that critique, it sometimes is the thing that makes us go, well, maybe that wasn't right. And maybe I can do this. And, maybe they are wrong and I'm going to do it anyway. And, might prompt us, but we need each other. And together we are the drops. And as we make all these drops, we can flood the earth with goodness.
Exactly. Together. I love it.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, that's a brilliant way to wrap up the interview part of this conversation. And now I want to do, for you listeners out there, we're going to do our Dr. Christie's Simple Solutions segment. And today we're going to feature Rhonna Farrer's beautiful apps. And as I said earlier in the show, I came across these a few months ago, and I love it because I make little memes all the time for my blog posts or for my books or different things that I'm trying to promote. And your designs are they're beautiful, and they're easy to use, and they're fun, and they make you happy. And I wanted to feature this because it's made my life simpler.
Awesome. I love that.
Yes, it's made my life simpler, and it helps me to create beautiful things in less time, more efficiently, more effectively. And they look better than what I was using before. I won't tell you what I was using before, but anyway, I really love these apps. So Rhonna, since I have you here, why don't you tell our listeners about the apps, what they do, and what our moms out there listening can do with the apps, and then we'll talk about make sure that they know where to find them and how they can purchase them.
Okay, awesome. So the first app is called Rhonna Designs, and it was initially designed to be able to help others, like you said, simply put graphics on photos or on a background. And my hope was that people would share it with others on social media or make cards or whatever to uplift and inspire others. So it really is just a matter of tapping your fingers, and there's text, there's designs, there are filters and frames and all sorts of fun things that you can do. And then you can also print them. And that's something that else, even though it's, it's on your digital device, a lot of people forget that they can print. But
I didn't even think about that.
Invitations and cards and people do their Christmas cards on it. It's crazy. I mean, it really is so fun. But then we also, a year later, we launched another app that is called RD Magic. RD Magic is a photo editing app, and it deals more with photographs, and there are light leaks and textures and little light bubbles that you can put on, and the two apps talk to each other. So for instance, if you were to take a photo of your child on the first day of school and you wanted to add the text of the date and the 9th grade or whatever it is, and then what you can do is, for my son's birthday, or for my son's first day, he's in 9th grade. I did a huge 9 right next to him, and I put that on with the text tool in Rhonna Designs. Then I opened it up into, like I said, they talk to each other. There's really just one button that just says open in, and I opened it in Rhonna or RD Magic, and I erased part of the 9, so it looked like he was standing in front of the 9. And then I put some filters on it and all this stuff. And that was he was so proud of that one. It was hilarious. I mean, in 9th grade, as cool as he thinks he is, when I showed it to him, he was just like, wow, that looks pretty cool.
I'm impressed. If you can impress a 9th grade boy, that's pretty good.
Exactly. So as a mom, I mean, you're lucky sometimes if you even get a picture of your teenager. Mm-hmm. But when I'm able to kind of, make it look cool and stuff, and then send it to them via text or something, that to me is one of the best things ever.
I love it. So it's simple to use. They work together, and they're easy to find. You can find them in the App Store.
Right.
Correct?
The Rhonna Designs is actually in iOS version in iTunes. Okay. It's on Google Play for Android versions, and it's also on Windows. And it's actually desktop and mobile device. So that one is really cool. It's awesome.
I didn't know that you could do it on desktop. I only have it on my phone.
We just opened that with the Windows phones and the Windows desktop. It's the latest update, but it's really cool. And then RD Magic, as of right now, is just on iOS devices. So I know everyone's asking, is it going to come on Android? And we hope it will. But for now, that's where we are. So.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so you guys can go find it on all those places where Rhonna just said. Also, I believe on your website, if people go to your website, they can find out how to get to the apps through there as well, right?
You'll be able to just click on it. And then I have all these video tutorials too that you can, from the app, you can access, but I have them on my website, and you can see how to use the text feature or the mask feature or the frames or things like that. People say, oh, there's so much to do. It's kind of, sometimes you get a little bit overwhelmed, but that's why I have videos for you. And it just takes, 5 or 10 minutes to learn how to do it, and simple. And then you're able to basically make your memories on the go with your mobile devices. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So definitely everybody out there, you've got to go check out this product, these apps. You can go to Rhonna's website, Rhonna Design, again, RHONNA designs.com. You can find it through there. You can find it on, like you said, iTunes, on, what'd you say, for Google Play? For
Google Play,
Android, through Windows? How do you access it for Windows?
In their Windows Store, you buy it there, and then you load it into your device.
Windows Store. Right. Also, you can go on Rhonna's website, check it out, all her products, her videos, resources. I mean, it's a beautiful site, first of all.
Well,
it just looking at it, you can tell how great she is at the work she does. It's really beautiful. And then also on her blog, you can go and, I mean, you have a beautiful blog as well. I was scrolling through this morning like, oh, I got to come back and read some of these things. So, and that's at Rhonna, remind me the blog.
RhonnaDesigns.blogspot.com.
Blogspot.com,
Yes.
right. And of course, find Rhonna on social media. She has beautiful stuff all over Instagram. I mean, that's probably a really great way to follow you, right? To see what you're up to. And it's at Rhonna Farrer. Is that right?
Yep.
And again, RhonnaFerrer. And Twitter as well, at Rhonna Farrer.
Yes. Yep.
And Farrer. Facebook, Rhonna Designs.
Rhonna Designs. Yes.
Okay, we've got it all. Is that it?
Awesome. I know.
Oh, it's so great. Thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you.
For sharing all your wisdom with us. I'm definitely going to have to have you back on the show.
Awesome.
We'll have to find another way to talk about something related to that. I'm sure
there's
plenty we could talk about.
Right.
But this is so great. And I hope all you listeners out there will take Rhonna's suggestions and choose today to not just grow in your life, but to live a creative life, to live that way, to bring more joy and energy into your life by putting more creativity into each day. And as Rhonna said, exercising it as a muscle in your daily life to uplift and inspire others. Yes?
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. And in the meantime, I hope you guys will also check out my website at drchristinahibbert.com. There are links there to my books, This Is How We Grow and Who Am I Without You? And my third book is actually available for pre-order on Amazon.com as well already. And connect with us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest and wherever you are, at YouTube as well. I also need to mention this and many of the other interviews are recorded and we put them up on YouTube. So if you want to watch the videos, go check out the YouTube channel for Dr. Christina Hibbert as well. And until next time, again, I hope that you will continue to grow and not just go through motherhood, because it is so much better to grow through it together. Go through it and grow through it together. And that's what we do each week here on Motherhood. So come join us again, and I hope you have a great week. Bye-bye, everybody.